I'm now joined by Jordon Iorio from Brant Mental Health Solutions. Thanks for joining me, Jordon.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Something that I wanted to speak with you about is probably a relatively new term that people have heard about, and that's social stigmas. Can you talk about what that is and maybe give us some examples?
Our brains tend to want to label people a certain way. So an example would be, a stigma would be, let's take the Asian community, because of what's going on with coronavirus. Our brains might go to, I saw on the news that it came from a market in China, and that market's dirty. So we view this population as dirty people, which is, it's not rational, but that's just an example of like how we would label somebody, and that's how they become, marginalized, stigmatized. And that's obviously ramped up during times of stress, like right now. Our brains always want an answer, usually as quickly as possible, because our brains don't like to be confused. So we go from what to blame to who to blame, which isn't really great for times like this. But we create these stigmas that we're looking to target certain people and maybe things like practices that they have, or groups that they're part of, instead of using our rational brain.
Or scientific evidence at that point too, right? And right now people are agitated when they're going out, and one of the things that I haven't heard this term is microaggressions, and so that might come out with retail workers, truckers, anyone that people are frustrated at, but might also associate that they could also be a carrier or somebody that could transmit the virus to them.
Yeah. So that's the other thing too, is we watch the news, and unfortunately, not to get political, but it's just the facts. When you see Donald Trump make pure misstatements, but he says them in a certain way that, it's spoke confidently, and he's still a leader. So when you hear a leader say certain things, that we need to blame this or look at this strongly, it causes us to kind of bypass our like analytical side of our brain, and we just go, yeah, like, what we do need to avoid, if John was out driving truck for this long, then like that means his family could have it, so then that means this, then that means that, and it just keeps going and going and going. So we have like our frontline workers out there, and we're supporting them from social media, but they can also be, I'll use the word shunned, by us at the same time. It's easy to jump on social media and say, let's thank our frontline workers and post positive articles, and all that stuff's great, but are you calling these people? Are you sending them thank you cards? Are you video
being
calling?
Kind?
Being kind.
Yeah.
It's easy to do the quick things, but showing real care in terms of, it kind of makes me think of like the term social distancing. I read an article where somebody was arguing, a psychologist, that it should be called personal distancing, because we don't want to social distance from people that are, especially healthcare workers or people that are providing the food chain, food supply chain, or people working at the grocery store. We don't want to be social distancing from them. It's just personal distancing. we want to be as social with them as possible.
One thing that you help a lot of people with in your clients is anxiety, and I can only imagine most people are feeling anxious, but then if you already have a diagnosed anxiety, how much more difficult is it for someone that is already sort of struggling? What can you offer in terms of advice in helping them through this really, really difficult time in our lives?
First thing I'll say is, since we're speaking about things like microaggressions and I call it like labeling, it's funny when we're stressed and our anxiety's high. Like I said before, we just want answers. So kind of a funny thing is you can be a very good person at heart, not be racist, prejudiced, judgmental. But when you're anxious and in a stressed state, you just want resolution now. How do I feel? Like, what do we do to just get this thing, COVID-19, gone? I just want to return back to normal life. And, you know, if it is the, let's say, I brought up labeling before, somebody said like the Chinese virus. Well, if we blame China and just get on them and figure this thing out, then, you know, I can get back to my normal life. And that's like the quick fix. And it's crazy how our brains can go to that state when we're a good person. So one, I would say, you know, avoid watching things like CNN too much.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the president is Trump, and he's not careful with what he says. He's good at creating fear, and fear is not great when you're already feeling stressed and anxious. So we'll leave that stuff behind, but I just wanted to bring it up because it was kind of relatable to stereotyping certain marginalized groups. But, you know, when you're just feeling anxious and stressed from this kind of time, again, I keep going back to it. You're not going to have your regular routine. It's almost like that's kind of been, it's not dead, but it's on the back burner. Your routine will come back. That's guaranteed. I think absolutely everything will come back. At what pace, who knows? But it's creating a new routine. Our brains, when we're stressed, like crave certainty, because there's so much uncertainty right now. If we can get certainty just by, okay, from 9 to 10 in the morning every day, I'm going to do this. From 10 to 4, I'm going to work on, if you still have work to do, on this. If not, I'm going to do these projects. I'm going to talk to John and Lindsay at this time of day on Zoom, and then we're going to play a game together. And if you structure things out in your environment, then you're more structured up here as well. And that's how we reduce anxiety. I mean, there's so many things, because I can't sit with everybody that's watching this in an office and counsel them right now. So I think what's most important is really giving those simple tips that are like extremely effective. I know personally, just creating a new routine has been so important. And obviously getting up and moving, our systems aren't meant to sit still, especially when we're stressed and anxious. You know, fight or flight can kick in. You know, I've always been an advocate of, if fight or flight's kicking in, so that's just an adrenaline rush that's causing us anxiety, very basic definition. You know, get up and move, give that energy somewhere to go. And it's also going to affect your brain for many, many reasons I could get into. So yeah, exercise, extremely important. I don't care if it's just a walk. We're still permitted to go outside. When you're stuck in a little environment, you're stuck in your room, that becomes the anxious room. Get out of the anxious room, get outside, get out into the open, and then your mind can be open to kind of releasing the anxiety, you know, and then you can come back to your room and it's not so anxiety filled after that.
I love those tips, and like you said, they're pretty simple, but to people that that don't have a routine, that will really create that little bit of certainty that we need, and especially with children and parents. And I really appreciate those tips, Jordon. And thank you so much for joining me today to talk about this. And if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
You can find me. The easiest thing would be to just Google my name spelled Jordon. And you can put Brant Mental Health Solutions. That would be the easiest way, and phone number and website and all that will come up as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's always great chatting with you. I appreciate you being a part of our Rogers TV panel quite regularly when it comes to mental health, and it's much appreciated. Thank you.
I appreciate it too. Thank you.